Hello everybody, this is Mr. Laubach. I hope you're having an awesome day. In this video, I want to go over the Pennsylvania court system. Now, as you know, we have been focusing a lot on the federal court system. But in the United States, we have what is known as a dual court system, meaning there are state courts and federal courts. Here are a couple things to think about before we dive into the Pennsylvania court system. Every state in the U.S. has their own separate court system, and each state system is a little unique from the other. Over 90% of all of the cases heard in the U.S. courts are heard by state court systems. So collectively, state court systems hear way more cases than the federal court system. Both federal and state courts handle civil and criminal cases. Most crimes in the United States are state crimes. So when you watch the news at night, a lot of those crimes you are seeing are actually state jurisdiction crimes. In Pennsylvania, all judges or justices are elected and not appointed. Unlike many federal judges, judges in the Pennsylvania state court system serve a set term length as well. So very important to keep in mind that the Pennsylvania state court system judges, they are elected, they are not appointed. The Pennsylvania state court system is actually older than the United States itself. The first Pennsylvania courts were set up in the 1600s under William Penn. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court was set up in 1722. Now, of course, it has changed a lot over time, but state court systems are nothing new for Pennsylvania. Now, here's a chart which gives you a nice overview of the Pennsylvania state court system. You will notice that the Pennsylvania court system is very similar in structure to the U.S. court system. You will also notice that it is a pyramid shape type of a structure, with the top being the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court. And please stay tuned to the end of this video, where I have a neat story about a colleague and friend here at Lower Merion that has experience in the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court. And don't worry, it is a good story. So let's start at the bottom of the Pennsylvania court system, and these are referred to as the minor courts. They handle about 2 million cases a year. They are very busy. The minor courts perform preliminary hearings, set bail. They decide if criminals should go to if a criminal case should go to the Court of Common Pleas, which is the next level. There are a total of 568 judges in minor courts across Pennsylvania. Once elected, these judges get to serve a 6-year term, and they can be reelected. All state criminal cases begin at this level. It is basically a hearing and does not look like a criminal court setting that we might be used to seeing on TV. So the minor courts are considered to be the gateway to the state court system. So all court cases at the state court system, for the most part, begin at this minor court level, which is often referred to as magistrate courts as well. These courts are very local. There are a couple of these courts in Lower Merion Township, and there is one in Narberth Borough as well. You would go to these courts if you wanted to fight a parking ticket, a speeding ticket, or you were given a citation where you were given a fine. They handle minor court cases. Oftentimes, misdemeanors are handled at the minor court level. The next level of courts are the Court of Common Pleas. This court fills a very similar role to district courts for the federal court system. They hear about 700,000 cases a year. They are the primary trial court for major state criminal and civil cases. They will hear cases regarding divorce, child adoption, and civil cases that are worth over $7,000. Civil cases worth less than $7,000 will be heard at these minor courts. There are a total of 60 of these Court of Common Plea courts across Pennsylvania. Most of them are in the county seat. For instance, the Court of Common Pleas is in Norristown for Montgomery County. These judges are elected, and they will serve a 10-year term. As you can see, there are a total of 451 of these judges throughout Pennsylvania. If you get called for jury duty for the state level, you would go to your local level court of this type. So you would go to the Court of Common Pleas. So in Montgomery County, if you got state court jury duty, you would go to the court in Norristown. These courtrooms look like the courts that we typically see on TV and show, like in Law and Order, where there is a lawyer and there's a prosecutor and there are witnesses called and there's a jury and evidence is submitted and there is a judge overseeing everything. So that's what the Court of Common Pleas in Pennsylvania looks like. The other courts do not have that type of a look. The next level of courts we are going to talk about are intermediate courts. These courts fill a similar role to the Circuit Court of Appeals for the federal court system. The two types of intermediate courts in Pennsylvania are superior courts and commonwealth courts. Judges in these courts also serve 10-year terms after they are elected. They look to see if mistakes were made in the lower trial courts. They hear cases on appellate jurisdiction. They do not have the typical courtroom setting look that we see on TV or that is in the Court of Common Pleas in the Pennsylvania system. They use a panel of judges that will hear an appeal. There are no juries, there are no witnesses called or anything like that. They will read over the briefs of the cases that are submitted by lawyers and interested parties. The Superior Court and the Common Court, the Superior Court here hears criminal and civil appeals. They handle the majority of the appeals from the Court of Common Pleas. The Commonwealth courts hear only civil appeals that are related directly to the government, whether it is the state government or the local level government in Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth Court is more specialized and does not hear as many cases on appeal as the Superior Court does. Keep in mind that the appeals courts do not have to hear or take up an appeal. They can actually choose to decline them, in which case that would mean the lower court ruling would stand. The Commonwealth Court is something that is unique to Pennsylvania. As you can see at the intermediate court level, there are 15 judges in the Pennsylvania Superior Court, and there are 9 elected judges in the Commonwealth Court. Now for the highest court in our state court system in Pennsylvania, it would be the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court. There are 7 justices in this court. They hear appeals from the Superior and Commonwealth courts. On average, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court hears about 7% of the cases that are appealed to them. They do most of their work out of Harrisburg, but they will travel around to hear cases in Philly and Pittsburgh or other cities in Pennsylvania, depending on where they might need to go. The state Supreme Court can have original jurisdiction on any case that it sees necessary. Again, they do not have to hear an appeal unless it is an appeal regarding a death penalty sentence. Keep in mind that technically, cases that are ruled on by the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court can be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. But for the most part, the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court has the final say on court rulings, and they oversee all of the other courts in the Pennsylvania state court system. And now for the story that you all have been waiting for since the beginning of this video. A colleague and friend of mine, Mr. Sean Flynn, is also a lawyer. He teaches American government and AP U.S. government and also U.S. history, and he's taught a whole bunch of courses since he's been here at LM. But back in the 80s, yes, the 1980s, Mr. Flynn, he was a lawyer that argued a case in front of the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court, and it was an appeal from the Commonwealth Court where a township wanted to disband their police department, and they wanted to instead pay the state police to patrol their streets. So they didn't want to disband the police department altogether. They just wanted to hire the Pennsylvania state troopers to do it. So there was an argument that this could not be done, and Mr. Flynn argued that in fact townships can ban their police department and hire the Pennsylvania state troopers to do their patrols and handle the police activity. So kind of an interesting story. So you could tell Mr. Flynn when you see him that you heard this story. All right, so I hope this information helps. Again, this is the Pennsylvania state court system in the dual court system that we have here in the United States.